There's a hidden power inside every woman that can move mountains, heal hearts, and yes, even break through the hardest layers of a man's ego. It's not about manipulation. It's not about tricks. It's about awakening a truth, your truth, that speaks directly to his soul. And when you understand this, you no longer need to chase love. You become love. Now let's be real. There are men who walk around with this heavy armor called pride. They wear it like a shield, pretending they don't need anyone, pretending they don't care. But underneath all that is a longing to feel safe, to feel seen, and to feel loved, truly and deeply. Not controlled, not dominated, but melted. And the only way to melt that pride is to meet it with something stronger, your radiant, confident, and healing energy. Louise Hay always said, "The thoughts we think and the words we speak create our experiences." So if you believe you're not worthy of love, or if you're constantly afraid of being rejected, guess what? You're feeding the very energy that keeps you stuck. But what if you start shifting those thoughts? What if you stop seeing his pride as a wall and start seeing it as a wound? Because that's what it is. A man's pride often hides deep insecurities. Maybe he was taught never to cry. Maybe he was abandoned. Maybe he feels he's never enough, no matter what he achieves. And when a woman comes into his life who doesn't try to fix him, change him, or argue with his ego, but instead mirrors back to him his own worth, something changes, something powerful. Now, how do you do that? How do you destroy that pride without destroying the man? It starts with the energy you carry. When you walk into a room feeling complete, feeling divine, knowing that you don't need anyone's validation to feel valuable, something magical happens. He notices not just your beauty, not just your charm, but your presence. That's what shakes him to his core. Louise Hay taught that self-love is the most powerful healing force in the universe. And this isn't about bubble baths or pretty quotes. It's about how you talk to yourself when no one is listening. Are you gentle with your heart? Are you rooting for yourself? Because when you show up in a relationship from that place of wholeness, you instantly raise the vibration of the connection. And here's where it gets really interesting. When a man feels your energy is not desperate or needy, but peaceful and sovereign, it disarms him. Pride loses its power when it meets peace. He starts to soften. He begins to question the armor. He starts to wonder, why do I feel safe here? Why do I feel like I can breathe? And that's when the real love begins. But wait, you might be thinking, doesn't that mean I have to do all the emotional work? Absolutely not. This is not about doing everything for him. This is about being so true to yourself that he either rises to meet you or fades away. And when you come from love, you're not afraid of either outcome. You trust that what's meant for you will never require you to abandon yourself. The feminine energy doesn't fight, it doesn't chase, it doesn't plead, it attracts, it heals, it magnetizes. That's why when you are centered in love, in truth, in calm certainty, you become unforgettable. His pride starts to collapse under the weight of your grace. Now listen closely, because this part is subtle but powerful. The way you respond to his ego is what makes all the difference. Most people react. They get triggered. They argue. They try to win. But you're going to do something different. You're going to hold space. You're going to stay rooted. You're going to understand that his defensiveness is not about you. And from that place of calm awareness, you'll reflect his highest potential, not his fears. This is not about ego games. This is about soul alignment. When you treat him like a king, not because you're trying to get something, but because you see the king in yourself first, his crown starts to straighten, not out of pride, but out of devotion. He starts to admire you, respect you, need your energy, not in a draining way, but in a sacred way. He will protect that connection. He will open up. He will begin to love you, not just with words or gestures, but with presence, commitment, and reverence. This is how you dissolve a man's pride and invite him into a higher form of love. A love that's not built on power struggles or emotional games, but on healing, on presence, and on real connection. When a woman begins to live from her inner power, not only does she reclaim her energy, she becomes irresistible. Irresistible not because she's chasing attention or performing a role, but because she embodies something rare, emotional safety. And this, more than beauty, more than success, more than charm, is what truly undoes a man's pride. Because deep down, what every man is seeking, whether he admits it or not, is a place where his soul can rest. Most people think that to win a man's heart you have to impress him. But when you understand the emotional structure of masculine pride, you realize something deeper. It's not about doing more. It's about doing less, with more intention. He doesn't fall in love when you're proving your worth. He falls in love when you're anchored in it. Louise Hay often said that the universe responds to how we feel about ourselves. If you think you're not good enough, that will be mirrored back to you in your relationships. But when you shift the energy within, when you start speaking to yourself with kindness, with compassion, with unwavering love, you begin to radiate something a man can feel without a word. And here's the key. He doesn't understand it logically. He just feels drawn, safe, and almost mesmerized. And this is where the transformation happens. Pride cannot coexist with real intimacy. A man may have built walls high enough to keep the whole world out, but if you meet him with presence instead of pressure, those walls begin to crumble. He starts to feel that it's okay to drop the act, to exhale, to just be. But let's not confuse softness with weakness. This is about sacred strength, the kind that doesn't argue with ego, but simply refuses to lower itself. When you no longer get hooked into proving yourself, into making him see your value, you rise. And when you rise, he either evolves or disappears. And that's not your loss, it's your alignment. There's a moment, a quiet one, when he looks at you and realizes you're not like the rest. Not because you said something dramatic, not because you played a game, but because your piece challenged his pride more than any confrontation ever could. You reflect a kind of emotional maturity that he didn't even know he needed. And in that space, love grows, not the kind that burns quickly and fades, but the kind that roots itself deep, steady, and sure. If he has wounds, you don't fix them. You don't lecture him. You don't try to rescue. Instead, you nurture your own light so fully that he's invited to meet you there. You set the emotional tone, not by force, but by energy. And here's something most women overlook. The way you love yourself teaches him how to love you. When you don't betray your intuition to keep the peace, when you don't abandon your boundaries to feel chosen, when you don't silence your truth to maintain the illusion of harmony, you send a message, not just to him but to the universe. You say, I am love, I am enough, I am the peace I seek. And that is irresistible. Pride, in its deepest essence, is just fear dressed in armor. Fear of not being good enough, fear of being rejected, fear of being seen. But when a man meets a woman who sees through all of that, who sees his soul even when he can't, something ancient awakens in him. The protector, the lover, the giver. He no longer needs to defend or perform, he simply arrives. But for that to happen, you must trust your power, not the loud external kind, the quiet internal kind, the one that smiles when others seek drama, the one that walks away when energy feels off, the one that knows, if this connection is meant to last, it will never require me to dim my light. This is how you guide a man out of his pride, not by fighting it, but by loving yourself so profoundly, so consistently that he learns through your example what real love feels like. And when that happens, when he truly feels it, not just in words but in your presence, your tone, your gaze, he will do something unexpected. He'll put down his pride, not because you forced him, because he finally found something more powerful to protect, something he never knew he was missing, something sacred. A man begins to truly fall in love not when he feels desired, but when he feels understood. And that understanding doesn't come from questioning him endlessly or trying to decode his moods. It comes from your stillness, your presence, your capacity to see past his defense mechanisms without needing to attack them. Because when you stop trying to fix or control his pride, you offer him something revolutionary. Freedom. Freedom to be vulnerable. Freedom to let go. Freedom to feel safe in the presence of a woman who doesn't demand anything other than authenticity. That's the kind of love that rewires him. That's the kind of woman he won't forget. But let's go even deeper. Because this isn't just about romantic love. This is about healing centuries of emotional disconnection. Women have long been told to suppress their power, and men have been taught to suppress their feelings. So when a woman begins to radiate her truth, unapologetically, gracefully, she creates a space for a new kind of relationship, one that's no longer built on pride and performance, but on heart and presence. There is a moment always where a man will test that space, not consciously, but his pride will. He may pull away, he may act cold, he may pretend he doesn't care. And this is where your deepest strength is needed. Because the old version of you may have panicked, may have begged, may have twisted yourself to be more lovable. But the version of you who knows her worth? She breathes. She lets him walk if he must. She knows that true love never asks her to shrink. And what does this do to a man who's never felt that before? It shakes him, in the best way. He starts to realize you're not reacting to his games because you're not playing them. You're responding from a place he hasn't known in years, maybe ever. You're not mirroring his fear. You're modeling self-love. Louise Hay always emphasized the power of affirmation, not as magic words, but as a realignment of belief. And here, in this dynamic, that's everything. If you affirm daily, "I am worthy of deep, respectful, devoted love," then that becomes your filter. You no longer entertain crumbs. You no longer accept half presents. You don't punish him. You simply rise above the frequency of pride entirely. And the beauty is, love at that level becomes inevitable. Because when a man is met with a woman who holds her center, who radiates peace and not persuasion, who stays rooted even when his ego trembles, he feels safe enough to lower his guard. That's when he starts asking deeper questions. That's when he starts feeling more than he's used to. That's when the mask falls. But remember, this only happens when you stop trying to get love and start becoming the space where love naturally flows. When you treat yourself as sacred, he will either mirror that energy or fade out of your life entirely. And either outcome is a win. Because love that costs you your peace isn't love. It's conditioning. The more you nourish your inner world, the less his pride can throw you off balance. You'll stop personalizing his silence. You'll stop chasing closure. You'll understand. If a man can't meet you in presence, he's not rejecting you. He's rejecting the depth of intimacy he's not ready for. And you? You'll no longer wait at doors that don't open. That shift alone is what transforms everything. And here's something profound. When a man sees you no longer argue with his ego, but instead return to your radiance, he feels it in his soul. He may not have the words for it, but his heart does. It begins to ache in a way he didn't expect. Not from pain, from remembering, from recognizing that this, your love, your light, your presence, is what he's been running from and craving all at once. And now that he's tasted it, he won't want to lose it. There is something deeply magnetic about a woman who is unattached to the outcome. Not cold, not indifferent, but free. Free to feel, to love, to express, without collapsing into someone else's chaos. This freedom is what calls a man out of his shell, not with demands, but with silent invitation. And that invitation is irresistible when it's rooted in emotional integrity. Pride doesn't survive long in the presence of real love. It might resist, it might flare up, it might even try to test the waters with ego games, but it's only a matter of time before it begins to soften. And what melts it fastest is not logic, not argument, not pressure. It's your refusal to fight, your calm response to turbulence, your willingness to hold your frequency even when he can't hold his. When you stop making his reactions mean something about your worth, you begin to reclaim your power in the most sacred way. You no longer need to win him over. You're not trying to be chosen. You are the one choosing peace, choosing alignment, choosing only those who can meet you at the level of truth. Louise Hay reminds us often that every experience is a mirror of our internal landscape. So the question becomes, what are you radiating when he pulls away? What are you affirming when his pride creates distance? Are you affirming abandonment or self-love? Are you slipping into old patterns or standing in your new energy? Because your response becomes the energetic boundary, not the words, not the rules, but the frequency. When you stand unshaken, you are showing him something foreign and captivating. A woman who knows her worth doesn't shrink when love feels uncertain. She expands, she trusts, she holds space without clinging. And in that space, he begins to feel something unfamiliar and yet ancient. Reverence, not for what you do, but for who you are. Not for your efforts, but for your essence. Now let's get honest. This is where many women sabotage the connection. When the man starts to melt, to open, to soften, the temptation is to speed up, to claim, to define, to secure. But the feminine doesn't secure love by gripping tighter. She allows it to come closer, not by force, but by trust. And here's the paradox. The more secure you feel within yourself, the more secure he feels in your presence. Not because you're giving him certainty, but because you are certainty. You've stopped outsourcing it. You've stopped waiting for external reassurance to feel safe. You've become the safety. From this place you speak differently. You listen differently. Your energy speaks louder than words. You no longer try to inspire love, you embody it. You no longer chase his attention, you command it with your peace. That is how you rewire a man who has only known love as performance or pain. There's something deeply healing about being in the presence of a woman who doesn't flinch at your defenses, who doesn't take your distance personally, who doesn't get smaller when things feel uncertain. And that healing begins to dissolve pride on a cellular level. Because he starts to realize, I don't need to be perfect here, I don't need to pretend, I don't need to impress, I can just be. That right there is the door to forever love. You didn't shame him, you didn't chase him, you didn't try to fix him, you simply stayed rooted in love. First for yourself, then for the connection. And that love, that unwavering love that doesn't beg, doesn't blame, doesn't bend, it's unforgettable. It breaks patterns, it shifts timelines, it awakens devotion. And now, here you are. Not the girl waiting for someone to see her, not the woman doubting if she's enough, but the divine feminine fully awake, loving from her center, creating from her soul, and no longer afraid of who walks away when she stands in her truth. Because the truth is, when you stop fighting for someone to love you, and you start loving yourself in the ways you always deserved, they feel it. He feels it. And if he's meant to rise, to soften, to love deeply, he will. Not because you pushed, because you became the space where love has no choice but to grow. This kind of love doesn't scream. It doesn't demand. It doesn't beg. It calls, silently, powerfully, and it transforms everything it touches. So the next time his pride shows up, when he pulls away, when he pretends not to care, when he hides behind silence, remember this. You are not here to fix him. You are here to love yourself so fiercely, so completely, that he either rises into that frequency or makes space for someone who will. You don't destroy his pride by tearing him down. You destroy it by loving yourself so deeply that his only choice is to love you on that same level or lose you to your own radiance. If these words touched your heart, if you recognized yourself in this message or saw your story reflected in these truths, then don't let it end here. Share this video with another woman who needs to hear this today. Leave a comment. Tell me what spoke to you the most. Your story, your energy, your voice matters more than you know. And if you're ready to keep walking this path of healing, of awakening, of reclaiming your worth through love, not just for a man but for you, then stay with me. There's so much more to come. Let's flood this world with women who love themselves into wholeness. Let's be the wave that transforms how love is lived, felt, and shared. Because when one woman remembers her power, it gives permission for thousands more to do the same. And that is how we change everything. If you feel it in your heart, like, comment, and share. Let's spread this truth to every woman who's ever questioned her worth, and every man who's finally ready to love like never before. I'm here, I see you, I love you, and I believe in the power you carry, always.